Doomsday has always been a topic that is not very cheerful, yet it brings immense curiosity to everyone.
The mass extinction of humanity is often described through prophecies, fictional stories, or in the imaginations of conspiracy theorists.
These stories spread across the world, fueling a deep-seated fear and fascination with the end of our civilization.
From a broad perspective, this event is comparable to the extinction of the dinosaurs about 65 million years ago.
There are many ways to bring the Earth to a doomsday scenario, and some are closer than we think.
It could come from humans themselves, microorganisms, nature, or even extraterrestrial beings from beyond our solar system.
Have you ever wondered how our doomsday will actually happen, and what the world will look like after?
What is the possibility for humans to survive after such a catastrophe, and what would we need to do? If humanity is lucky enough to still exist, how would we go about restoring this broken planet?
Welcome to the next series of Primitive Universe, titled Doomsday Scenario, Episode 1, Nuclear War.
First, we need to understand what doomsday really means in the context of our modern world.
In the simplest sense, Doomsday is the final day of the world as we know it.
However, this understanding might not be entirely accurate when we consider the physical survival of the planet.
For an entire planet like Earth to suddenly disappear or shatter into pieces is almost impossible. Instead, Doomsday is usually an event that directly affects most of the life on the planet, specifically humans. Therefore, we can agree that today we will discuss the day when most of human civilization is destroyed. Needless to say, you can probably guess the most likely scenario for such a catastrophic day. From every perspective, this is one of the most realistic reasons that could return humans to the Stone Age. Or even worse, it could cause the complete disappearance of the human race from the face of the Earth.
For those who don't know, the Doomsday Clock is a symbolic object maintained by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. It was established at the University of Chicago in 1947 to represent the level of warning about global nuclear war.
The greater the nuclear threat, the closer the clock's hands move toward the midnight position.
With the development of weapons of mass destruction and other high-tech weaponry, the clock now warns of many dangers.
These include environmental destruction, climate change, and even the potential misuse of nanotechnology.
At this moment, the Doomsday Clock is warning humanity with a message. Only a few minutes left until midnight.
Returning to the main issue, nuclear war is a reality that could completely happen in the future.
So, when were nuclear weapons first created, and how many do we have in the world today?
How powerful are these weapons that they can reset millions of years of nature's progress with one button? Nuclear weapons are a type of weapon of mass destruction whose energy comes from nuclear fission or fusion.
Even the smallest nuclear weapon has more destructive power than any conventional weapon ever created.
A weapon with the power of 30,000 to 300,000 tons of TNT can destroy a city. If the power is 1 million tons, it can destroy an area with a radius of 100 to 160 kilometers.
The first nuclear weapons were developed by the United States with help from the UK and Canada during WW2.
This was part of the top-secret Manhattan Project, which changed the course of human history forever.
Not long after, in 1945, Japan became the first nation to witness the horrific destruction of the atomic bomb.
The two cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were almost completely leveled by the two bombs.
Little boy, the bomb dropped on Hiroshima,
had a destructive power of about 13 to 18 kilotons.
It created a mushroom cloud 6,000 meters high and released massive amounts of radiation into the air. The bomb immediately took the lives of 80,000 civilians living in the city at that time. Meanwhile, Fat Man, the second bomb dropped on Nagasaki 3 days later, was even more powerful.
This bomb used plutonium and created an explosion of up to 21 kilotons. It formed a mushroom cloud over 8,000 meters high and caused 40,000 deaths.
The largest nuclear bomb in human history ever detonated was the Tsar Bomba.
Initially, the bomb was designed to have a yield of about 100 million tons of TNT. However, the yield was reduced by half due to concerns about radioactive fallout reaching Moscow.
It was tested on October 30, 1961, at the Novaya Zemlya archipelago in the Arctic Ocean.
Throughout history, tens of thousands of nuclear warheads have been created, peaking at over 70,000 in 1986.
Although there have been periods where nuclear weapons were limited, the current number is still significant.
Currently, 9 countries possess a total of 12,705 nuclear warheads.
Russia has the largest arsenal, with a total of 5,977 warheads.
Of those, 1,588 are deployed and ready for immediate use. The United States has 5,428 warheads, with 1,750 deployed.
Other countries like China, France, the UK, Pakistan, India, and Israel also hold significant arsenals.
There are also concerns about other countries suspected of developing their own nuclear weapons programs.
We still have far too many weapons for a potential nuclear conflict.
The question is, if this war were to happen, how would it actually unfold?
How large would the conflict need to be to completely erase human civilization?
First, we need to know that there are many ways a nuclear war could start.
Until now, the only method of nuclear attack used in war has been gravity bombs.
These bombs are designed to be dropped from aircraft and must withstand various environmental changes.
Initially, these weapons had a safety lock that remained closed during the flight.
They had to meet strict stability requirements to avoid accidental explosions or drops.
The next generation of bombs was even larger and could only be carried by the B-52 Stratofortress.
By the mid-1950s, smaller and lighter nuclear weapons were developed for fighter jets.
However, today, invading a sovereign nation's airspace to drop a bomb is extremely difficult. Therefore, ICBMs seem to be the most feasible option for a nuclear strike.
ICBMs can travel over 5,500 kilometers at 20 times the speed of sound.
They are almost impossible to intercept once they have been launched from their silos. The possibility of using nuclear weapons in a war is usually divided into 2 types. The first type is a limited nuclear war, involving small-scale use by one or a few groups. This usually happens when countries target each other's military bases to gain an advantage. It could also involve smaller nuclear powers that lack the ability to launch a full-scale strike.
The second type is a full-scale nuclear war, involving a massive number of weapons.
This would target an entire nation, including both military and civilian targets. Such an attack aims to destroy the entire economic, social, and military infrastructure of a country. A full-scale nuclear war is unlikely to be limited to just 2 countries, especially if one of those countries is a nuclear superpower with a massive arsenal. If a full-scale nuclear war occurs, it could lead to the extinction of the human race.
Or at least leave only a few survivors with a quality of life similar to the pre-medieval era. It would also destroy the ecosystem and have a massive impact on the Earth's climate. Currently, there are about 4,000 nuclear warheads, always in a state of combat readiness.
Coincidentally, there are also 4,037 cities with a population of over 100,000.
With current nuclear power, almost the entire population of those cities would be killed immediately.
That number is estimated to be about 56% of the world's population. This is equivalent to more than 4.4 billion people, according to 2020 data. The number of 4.3 billion people is truly horrific, but it might not be enough to end humanity.
Because our current population has reached 7.8 billion people. But that's not the final number if a real nuclear war breaks out.
After thousands of consecutive nuclear explosions, the world will be submerged in a sea of fire and ruins.
The smoke and dust from the explosions will quickly cover the Earth's atmosphere for many years.
This will bring us into a period called nuclear winter, where the sun's light cannot reach the surface. This will cause severe climate change, affecting all living organisms on the planet.
If nuclear war happens, the Earth's temperature will drop by about 1.5 degrees Celsius.
And for decades after, the temperature will remain significantly lower than normal.
The largest volcanic eruption in history, at Mount Tambora in 1815, only lowered the temperature. Yet even with that small change, the Earth had to live through a miserable year, known as the Year Without a Summer. The Year Without a Summer caused famine and extreme cold across the Northern Hemisphere in 1816.
Frost and ice killed crops, leading to a severe shortage of food for millions of people.
It's a fair price for such a fine animal.
Thank you, young man. We'll take good care of her.
Many rivers were recorded as being frozen year-round, and snow fell in the middle of summer.
So, you can imagine the consequences of radioactive fallout from thousands of nuclear bombs.
Even if billions of people are lucky enough not to be killed immediately, the fallout will take its toll.
After decades of harsh weather and toxic air, most of the survivors will eventually perish.
But that's not all. There is one more deadly thing that comes from thousands of nuclear bombs.
As you probably guessed, that is nuclear radiation, which will contaminate the entire planet.
The amount of radiation released in a global nuclear war would be hundreds of times greater than Chernobyl.
To this day, the horror of Chernobyl still haunts all of Europe.
Millions of square kilometers of land, if not most of the Earth's surface, would be contaminated.
The oceans and rivers would no longer be safe from radiation,
and the wind would spread it everywhere.
When the human body is contaminated through food and water, it faces a slow and painful death.
This would lead to various horrific diseases, such as skin, lung, and bone cancer. Furthermore, radioactive fallout is hereditary and will affect future generations of humans.
The Earth, once a planet full of life, will become a frozen, deadly place after just a few months.
Is there any way for humans to survive this nuclear catastrophe?
Can this planet be saved? And what must we do to restore life as it once was?
In the days after a nuclear war, the lucky survivors must quickly find a large and secure bunker.
This place needs to have enough space and resources to support life for decades. This is the time it takes for the radioactive dust in the atmosphere to settle back to the ground. However, we also need to wait hundreds of years for the radiation to decay completely.
If we just hide and wait for the catastrophe to pass, the result will not be good.
We need a large enough force of leaders and scientists to rebuild humanity together. Is there any place in the world large enough to protect tens of thousands of people?
This might sound crazy, but there is such a place in our world: Switzerland. In 1963, the Swiss parliament passed a law requiring nuclear bunkers in all new buildings. Therefore, Switzerland has the largest system of nuclear bunkers in the world. The entrance to these bunkers is made of special steel, 20 centimeters thick. The bunkers must have a perfect air conditioning and ventilation system to support life. An electrical sensor system allows the lights to turn on and off as people move through the bunker. This is a civilian-level facility designed to serve the public in an emergency. Switzerland also has a national-level facility called K20, which is even more secure.
K20 is a military bunker system worth $259 million today.
Built in the 1980s, K20 is located in a mountain area covered in snow year-round. K20 is reserved for the top leaders and officials of the Swiss government.
In the event of a nuclear attack, the entire leadership will be evacuated to this bunker.
K20 has enough resources to support hundreds of people for 5 to 6 months.
Every entrance is monitored by a biometric scanning system for maximum security.
This allows the government to continue operating even in the middle of a war.
There are several other similar facilities across Switzerland, each worth millions of dollars. This system will ensure that key personnel have enough time and space to save humanity.
Although it's difficult, this is the last hope for the world after a nuclear war. It's sad that the reason for our doomsday comes from our own creations. We always talk about peace, but we are always preparing for war.
Albert Einstein once said, "I don't know what weapons will be used in WW2, but WW4 will be fought with sticks and stones."
Is this a prophecy for the future of humanity? What do you think about this doomsday scenario? Please leave your comments below, and don't forget to return to Primitive Universe for the next episode.
Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Goodbye for now.